Hello and welcome to another Packaging Europe podcast. Once again, I'm your host, Victoria Hattersley, and today I'm delighted to be joined by Julie Rice-Suggs of the US-based Packaging School, which, for those of you who aren't aware, works to kind of bridge the gap between academia and industry through partnering with a wide range of value chain actors to create a shared learning management system. She's going to be talking me through the challenges facing young packaging technologists moving into this field and what the industry can do to foster all the new talent coming in. So hi, Julian, welcome.
Thanks so much, Victoria. It's so great to be here, you guys. I love Packaging Europe, so this is super exciting and just kind of a something I've always wanted to be on. So thanks so much, Victoria, for having me.
You're very welcome. And so before we move into the subject at hand, I wonder if there's anything else you would like to add by way of introduction to yourself or to your colleagues and how the Packaging School really helps to drive sustainable innovation in the industry and support packaging scientists.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Kind of first off, I know a lot of people, find themselves in the packaging industry, um, kind of not being formally trained. So a little quick background on me. I actually got my degree in chemistry, and I found that, through my love of chemistry and science, I found packaging science. And, really we opened the packaging school to give people a chance to learn the wonders of packaging without having to go back and get that 4-year degree. So I'm kind of speaking my existence into, my job at the packaging school. So that's been a really fun thing to do and show people how impactful and, innovative packaging can actually be. So, as far as, packaging school helping drive sustainable innovation, we really hope, and our main goal is to have sustainability woven throughout our curriculum. It's really just a core focus of ours, and it's not an add-on or an extra thing. We really want to make it a very big thing that we want to help solve. So we offer dedicated courses like our sustainable packaging course and a more in-depth certificate of sustainable packaging as well, for those who really want to dive deeper into all the facets of sustainable packaging, really from A to Z. And as far as how we are also helping drive that innovation in, industry support, we have a really great sustainability expert on staff, Mitch Webster, who is actively developing content on EPR regulations, and he's really talking about really critical, timely topics in the industry. And he offers all of this stuff in, long form blog posts, LinkedIn articles, and it's all for free and really readily available for anyone that is looking to get into, packaging science. So Victoria, another way, we really have been hoping to really foster the future of packaging scientists is that we partner with the Sustainable Packaging Coalition, and we've helped build their knowledge library. It is a really great resource available to both members and non-members of the SPC, which is, a subgroup of Green Blue. This library covers all things sustainability, from recycling to food waste, providing comprehensive insights to help the industry move forward responsibly. So, that's the main reasons. And I could probably keep going. But, another kind of small thing real quick is that, hand in hand with sustainability, we foster innovation and advancement in the packaging industry through our Certificate of Mastery in Packaging Management program. So this program is actually designed specifically for, engineers, scientists, and technical professionals who want to master the materials and processes and technologies that shape the packaging industry. So I'm sure I'll talk about that more, but that's, that's the main way. And this is a huge goal of ours to help these folks in the industry.
So you can really, your materials are applicable to people, whatever kind of aspect of the packaging value chain they're looking to kind of work in.
Yeah, absolutely, Victoria. So I would say, our folks in the industry that take our courses really range the whole gamut of, sales professionals, packaging engineers, industrial engineers, food packaging professionals, food technologists. It really reaches the whole gamut. So I think we have something for everyone.
And you obviously mentioned your colleague Mitch in his blog post, which I can say I would recommend. I've read them and they're very informative. So to any of our readers, if you want to kind of learn more about what the school offers, then without wishing to obviously direct people towards another content platform, we like to support each other. And
Exactly.
yeah, as you say, you also work with SPC, who are very good friends of ours, so we're all in good company.
Love that. Love that. They're great. They're great.
Okay, so wonderful. So I'd like to maybe ask you as a starting point, would you say that the importance of packaging science as a discipline is recognized to the extent it should be even today? And if not, why do you think this is?
Yeah, no, and that's a great question, Victoria, and something that I have thought about a lot, especially kind of coming from not packaging science, for my formal training. So I would have to say, honestly, no, I don't think it's recognized to the extent it should be. Packaging science is such a vital discipline that touches nearly every industry, yet I really do feel like it flies under the radar at times. Many people, even those working in related fields, aren't fully aware of the depth and complexity and innovation involved in packaging. It's a funny story, Victoria. Oftentimes when I tell my family that I got a graduate degree in packaging, they're like, "What? So you know how to, wrap a gift box?" Like, and so it's I think there's a misconception on what packaging really does and how it helps so many people. Like I said, it touches every industry. So we are actively working to change this. We actually just formed a collaboration with ICPF, which is the International Corrugated Packaging Foundation, and
Okay.
they do really fantastic work, introducing college students and young professionals to, all the opportunities within packaging. So they're helping to build awareness at a critical stage, something I really wish I would have experienced during my own college and high school years,
Mm,
since I didn't even know what packaging was and I didn't know it was a career path that was, super viable. So I do feel like the lack of awareness isn't really about the lack of value. It's really just like visibility. We have to get ourselves out there. And I think you guys at Packaging Europe do a really great job of that. And we're trying to set the stage for the future here. So I think that's really why the packaging school is committed to education, outreach, and partnerships, that really elevate packaging science as a, critical forward-thinking field that it really is.
mm. And from the brand perspective, like why is it important that they now have like a dedicated packaging manager and team just for themselves? And are we also increasingly seeing the larger brands kind of even bringing their packaging development and design entirely in-house?
No, that's a great question. And, we get a lot of students that are specific to brands, and I've spoken with a lot of them. So, kind of the consensus is that, like, packaging obviously isn't just a box, it's brand identity, consumer experience, supply chain efficiency, sustainability, regulatory compliance, especially now with a lot of those EPRs coming into play.
It's going to get
So
increasingly more complex, isn't it?
I really think so,
For sure.
Victoria. Like, even at SBC this past April, it felt like everyone was racing towards understanding something about it. And I think that is really, really critical why you do have a, dedicated packaging manager on the team. It's essential for any, brands that are serious about growth, innovation, and, really responsible operations. So, I think a skilled packaging team, ensures that materials design, engineering, sustainability efforts are all, strategically aligned to the brand's goals. Um, so as far as, bringing it in-house, I think that, there's obviously pros and cons to everything, but I do think that this is happening more increasingly so. So larger brands are recognizing the value of having, more control and agility over packaging strategy, and as a result, many are building internal packaging teams or bringing design and development capabilities in house. So, I think this does offer faster iteration cycles, closer alignment with brand and product teams, better confidentiality for product launches, and,
Mm,
stronger, something that's really important to me, our partners at SPC are, stronger sustainability leadership, as internal teams can track and integrate environmental data more directly and efficiently. And I guess, as far as where the question lies, like what are the drawbacks here? I think oftentimes the drawbacks in this are capital, resource intensive, building and maintaining the skilled in-house team is an investment with talent. I think talent oftentimes is the biggest line item on anyone's, you know, bill, is that talent's expensive, and technology is also expensive, and as well as like scaling can be difficult too for smaller and mid-sized companies. So I think ultimately, packaging it's too strategic to be an afterthought. So either whether if you have a dedicated team or strong partnerships, brands need experts focused on packaging to remain competitive, sustainable, and responsive to all the needs of the consumers, which is ultimately their end goal.
Yeah, I mean it's everything, isn't it? Packaging. It's absolutely it's just a crucial consideration, whatever kind of aspect of the
Mhm.
product or the brand you're thinking about. It's
It really is. Yeah.
so obviously I will inevitably talk about some of the wider high level sustainability challenges that we're all facing
Mm.
across the value chain. But I also wanted to kind of ask you what are the most difficult hurdles the young people that you speak to encounter when
Mhm.
they're trying to break into the industry, quite apart from these kind of more high level challenges.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great question, Victoria. And I think it kind of stems back from what we were talking about earlier, like, visibility. So I think that the biggest challenge for young people trying to break into this industry is really just simply awareness. So, many students and early career professionals don't know that packaging is such a defined, specialized career path. It's rarely highlighted in traditional engineering or design or even business programs. So, unless someone stumbles into it through a specific class, internship, connection, family connection, sometimes it goes
Mm.
unnoticed. And I see a lot of folks too, like when I was at Clemson, it was funny, Victoria, like a lot of the kids that I had, formed relationships and friendships with, they were in packaging because they were, had a family history with it. Like, their dad and their grandpa both worked at a packaging company. So like I was like, yes, that makes sense. Of
So
course.
they'd grown up
Um,
hearing about it.
right.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, that's great. I love that. So, even for those who discover packaging, I think the next hurdle is often a lack of clear entry points. So, unlike more, mainstream fields like marketing or, just more general engineering, there isn't always a well-defined recruiting pipeline for packaging roles, especially with students without direct access to packaging science programs. So, I think those are the kind of the main issues. And, another thing is could just be like credential gaps. Students from design, industrial engineering, or environmental science backgrounds may not have the full toolkit that
Mm.
employers are looking for to get into packaging roles. And, that is really why, the packaging school and, why we're working to partner with SBC and ICPF. We're working so hard to bridge this gap, like you mentioned before, by building this awareness, providing accessible education, and helping young professionals, gain that knowledge and confidence to succeed in this really complex but exciting industry.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons why the job you're doing is so important because even today, I think dedicated qualifications or courses on this subject are few and far between. I think you really have to seek them out.
Yeah, and especially too, Victoria, like, being an online school, I know folks
Mm.
today are, I think ever since, 2020, it's been a whole different landscape of education. And just because we are online, I know there's obviously pros and cons to that as well, but it does help to be able to train people across time zones, work schedules, family time, so that it's a great way for people to say take a 20-minute module within their lunch break. So it does help in that respect get people trained up to where they want to be without having to stop everything
Mm.
and go back to school, to get that formal education from Clemson or RIT, which I think, or Michigan State. And I think all that is great, but we are catering to folks that, maybe just can't do all of that. So, and also to young professionals that don't know about it, don't know about packaging, come find us and take our courses, and maybe your eyes will open and your career path will change.
I'd I also wanted to delve into these wider challenges that we
Mhm.
all face, and I was wondering if you were offering advice to somebody who was taking one of your courses, how would you sum up the biggest challenges that the industry faces in terms of the environmental impact of a pack
Yeah.
and regulatory developments? I mean, there are so many, and
Yes.
choosing the right materials. Is there a right material? There's just so many questions, aren't there?
No, I think that's a really relevant question, Victoria. And as the packaging industry does, rapidly evolve, packaging science students really need to prepare not only to innovate, but also to navigate really complex and shifting landscapes. I think the biggest thing that they would probably need to be aware of, or like, just challenges that they'll face, is that, packaging professionals in the current landscape need to really look beyond recyclability and consider like the whole life cycle impact of the pack. So this includes the carbon footprint from, raw material extraction through production, transportation, end of life. And, SBC does a really great job with all the resources, free and part of the membership to cover this. Water usage, energy intensity, land impact, you may say, hey, that doesn't have to do with packaging, but it really does. Again,
Mm.
packaging touches everything. And then, another thing is, navigating trade-offs between lightweighting, recyclability, and product protection, and really understanding how to apply tools like life cycle assessments. I know that kind of that word or that acronym LCA kind of scares a lot of people because it's a big to do, but I think that data will be critical,
It
moving
sounds
forward.
daunting, doesn't it?
It
But
does, and uh, in Victoria, I haven't actually done one myself, but I've read a lot of reports, and we have a great software that through Triac and Compass that really helps to fine tune how an LCA can work, which I think really does help because yes, it can be super daunting, especially for young professionals. It can be seen as a hurdle. Another thing, kind of hand in hand with the sustainability effort, and more so, is even the regulatory landscape. It's becoming more complex, like we were talking about, and definitely globalized. Longstanding regulations like FDA compliance or EU packaging waste directives. Mitch talks a lot about both of those on our blogs, especially
mm,
the EPR laws and plastic packaging tax. He has a great new one on eco modulation that's happening coming up here in 2025 and so on. And another thing is too, like I think the future of the packaging professionals really, Victoria, they need to be proactive, not reactive to regulatory change. I think that's going to really help, set them apart when they enter this industry. Like you were saying too, material choice. I think understanding that there isn't really a right material for every case. I don't think there can be a standard matrix for what works always. Being aware of new polymers and biopolymers and technologies getting out there now, and also being able to understand the benefits and drawbacks of these new materials. So I think students need to learn this, and I think they will, especially in a lot of their training. And I know at the packaging school to evaluate materials and contexts based on performance, cost, sustainability, availability, and obviously the total carbon footprint of that as well. um, you know Another thing is to understand the new and emerging polymers. It's really easy to see these new um, you know bio-based polymers and say, okay, this is great, but there often is trade-off, and we have to kind of consider that as well. In obviously fiber-based alternatives and compostable options are always, they're continuing to grow. So, and I think another thing is that brands really need to be kind of aware of the new use of smart and active packaging. I think that's really crucial for new packaging professionals, staying up to date with new technologies like NFC, QR codes. That's not super new, but still, antimicrobial films, freshness indicators. I think that's going to really help the supply chain in the future with traceability, blockchain, food safety, all of those things. I think that is really crucial. And honestly, Victoria, not one of my favorite topics, but artificial intelligence. I think I saw a blog about AI a while ago, or just like a meme or something on social media that was like, I hope that AI can just replace all the jobs that we don't like to do, not like, writing and building slide decks and all that stuff. So like, learning how AI can, efficiently accelerate design iteration, but not replace the human touch. Use predictive modeling and supply chain optimization, using it for data analysis. I'm just like, I feel like I'm just skating the surface of the possibilities. And I think that is great for packaging professionals to know that this is going to be the
mm,
future that they're going to live in. And it's not something that I dealt with when I was, in college and high school, et cetera. But I think that they're going to be able to harness it better just because of, how they were raised in this different age than I was, being a millennial,
yeah.
and they're younger, they're more agile to change than I probably am. And kind of on that too, like I think as far as I think going into that new age of packaging professionals, I do think consumer expectations are also kind of shifting.
Mm,
So packaging professionals in return for the future must really understand and respond, to the demand for, maybe minimalist packaging, sustainable, obviously, intuitive, easy to understand, and open packaging. They have to balance form and function with, accessibility, reusability, and obviously be aesthetically pleasing. That's important to a lot of folks,
Yeah, we can't
and
forget that either. It's still
no,
a product that it needs to be
exactly.
sold.
Yeah, yeah, and then, like, I think, in kind of what we were saying too, like, it's important for new packaging professionals to, monitor these social and demographic trends, like, rise in e-commerce, aging populations, Gen Z focus on sustainability and transparency. I think that's really crucial too, Victoria. Like, you'll see a lot of folks and new brands coming about that have, QR codes with brand stories, and they talk about their success with carbon footprint or net zero. And I think that's going to mean more to consumers in the future. So I think the future of packaging professionals need to understand this. They're not going to just be material experts anymore. They need to be more system thinkers, capable of connecting science, sustainability, regulation, and human behavior. So I think they're gonna have to have that multidisciplinary mindset,
Mm.
the kind that, I think our programs help to foster too.
Okay, thank you. And I guess one thing we haven't touched upon briefly is the role a pack plays in ensuring consumer safety as well, which is another thing that will
Oh, yeah.
also, need to be considered.
Yes,
So
yes. No, I think
there's a
that's
lot.
super important. Yes, that's also true. And, like, I think obviously the package can't just protect the product. You know, it has to protect the consumer in a lot of ways as well. So, like, I think crucial for packaging professionals in the future is, they're going to focus on a lot of testing, barrier properties, tamper evidence, migration testing. I think compliance is always important with safety standards. Child resistant packaging is big, safety standards with food context, pharmaceuticals, and, obviously ensuring the packaging itself is safe, free from harmful chemicals. I know the PFAS thing is coming to light a lot in recent news,
Yes.
and I think that's going to probably continue as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think we're going to be hearing much more about that. Wonderful. Thank you, Julie. I also wanted to kind of finish up by asking you what you think those who are already well established in the industry, wherever they sit in the value chain, what can they do to support the next generation of talent in this field? And why is this to the benefit of everybody?
Oh yeah, I love that question. I think that's great, and I think this is super important because I think I was helped in this way when I kind of came into the industry with, my boss, Dr. Hurley, that the co-founder of the packaging school, really helped foster my, entry into the packaging industry. So
Mm,
I think seasoned professionals can really help make a difference by, mentoring and sharing knowledge, like offer mentorship to students and early career professionals, whether that's formally or, through specific organizations, or maybe just informally via, platforms like LinkedIn, just saying hello and connecting with new folks. They can share how their career came to be with insights, resume feedback, or just simply answer questions that people may have. I know that's kind of scary just to go and talk to folks that, may be more seasoned in the industry, but I think it is super helpful. I think another great way to kind of um, help the new folks navigate and how the seasoned professionals can help do this is, supporting education through scholarships and sponsorships. I think financial barriers are often a huge issue, especially today. So funding scholarships, so sponsoring educational programs, or encouraging your education, your organization to support initiatives like ICPF in the packaging school, like we were kind of talking about before.
mm,
I think, Victoria, internships are great, and co-op opportunities. They give students that real world experience and exposure. I think you learn a lot through an internship that maybe you won't learn through, behind a screen. You learn, speaking with
definitely.
folks.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always just a little bit hard to get into that, but I think it's great. And I know Clemson does a really great job with those internship programs, and we've had probably over 30 interns to date, from Clemson and various schools to help us with our programs. So that's always really great to connect with those folks. I think the obvious one is just connect young talent to your network. Introduce them to colleagues, invite them to events. Recommend them where there's roles that could fit their skill set. Um, Obviously, a big one for me is, advocating for diversity and inclusion. Ensuring a broader range of voices enter and thrive in the field. I think that's super important. Um, And, obviously, like we've said numerous times in this, in this podcast, like we want to elevate the visibility of the profession. Let's speak about packaging science at college career fairs and social media, in webinars and podcasts like this. Many people don't know that packaging is even a career path to date, so we want to share these real world examples of how impactful packaging can be, from sustainable breakthroughs to life-saving pharmaceutical packaging. It's really everywhere, and it's so important. So, I think, Victoria, the end, why someone may ask, like, what does this benefit to me as far as, why should I help these new folks enter the industry? Which I don't like that question, but you may get it. And I do think supporting young talent really is a win-win for everyone. I think it enables us to have a stronger talent pipeline to fill those critical roles as these experienced professionals retire. Um, I love to see fresh ideas and new perspectives that drive change from these new, these younger folks entering the industry. Um, and I think overall it offers a more resilient, future ready industry, capable of transferring that tribal knowledge from the folks that are, ended up leaving, and really able to meet the new challenges ahead. So I think it's a drive of mine to help, folks entering the industry. And I'm gonna, as I continue in the packaging industry, I'm gonna hopefully keep the mentoringship alive throughout that.
Oh, it's great to hear. And you're right, every industry needs constant rejuvenation and new voices. I think that's so important. And
Mhm.
it's great to sort of hear your enthusiasm about this.
Oh,
I think it's been such an important discussion we've had today. And frankly, I think isn't something we cover enough in the packaging press. I don't think it's perhaps covered enough anywhere. So thank you so much for speaking to me today. And just to give my usual shameless plug, we'll be publishing a longer report on this topic with some of Julie's comments, obviously, in the membership section of our website. So do look out for that. And also, if you want to learn more about Julie's work and Mitch's work, visit it's at www.thepackagingschool.com, where you can find the blogs we were discussing and all kinds of information about the school.
that's right, Victoria. Thank you so much for having me. And if you guys wanted to, email me directly or find me on LinkedIn, it would just be under, Julie Rice Suggs, or just julie@packagingschool.com. So I would love to hear from you. Thanks so much, Victoria.
Lovely. Thank you so much. Once again, thank you for your time and take care, everybody. Thank you for listening.